Welcome, lords and ladies, back to the realm. I am your humble guide, the Goat King, and today we talk about backstory. What is its purpose, and what's my favorite method of creating a backstory? This video is mostly system agnostic, but it comes from the perspective of someone who mostly plays D20 games with class and level. What is the purpose of a backstory in a tabletop RPG? Why do game masters request backstories? Why do players feel the need to write backstories? I contend that there are three major reasons, and the most important, most fundamental, is the excuse. The excuse for why this character is where the player wants them to be, doing what the player wants them to do. The second most important reason is connection. Connection to the world and the plot. Connection turns the involvement of the characters from happenstance to inevitability. And lastly, perhaps least recognized or even intended, backstory gives the other players, and specifically the game master, a level of understanding of the character. Armed with the character's backstory, you can provide an emotional and narrative give and take, sharing or laser focusing the spotlight at appropriate times. It also helps the different players and the game master understand what they're all trying to get out of the game. Now, fulfilling these goals might be trivially easy for some, but I bet not for most. Writing a backstory is difficult in the same ways writing a story is difficult, especially a short story, but there is much less structure to inform a backstory. The hero's journey, especially in its completed stage, is rarely involved, at least for low-level backstories, and you can't have meaningful character development while the character is still being introduced. In my experience, advice on writing backstory is often vague and it leans heavily on what not to do, and for good reason. Writing is a relatively free-form, creative endeavor. It is much easier to see when something goes wrong than it is to predict what could go wrong, and how. Which is why no method or system is going to be the end-all, be-all. This system seems to work for me, and I wanted to share it. I call it the 3-line backstory. Now, before I lose you, the 3-line backstory is a summary, meant to emphasize the most important parts of a backstory, the connective tissue, and with it the excuse and the understanding of the character. In 3 lines, we will be introducing 2 NPCs close to the character, 2 motivations that drive the character, and 2 connections to world events or conflicts. We will do this in 3 pairs, NPC and motive, NPC and world, and motive and world. For example, Keenrao Fireforge is a dwarven artisan and a kineticist. Her mother, an important member of Clan Mulgrade, advocates for the dwarven kingdoms to take a more active role in world events. Her father is renowned for his skill working sky metals, a reputation and skill Keenrao hopes to one day rival. Recent reports of attacks on small dwarven communities in the wilderness have caught Keenrao's attention. She seeks to retrieve the clan daggers of those lost and discover the cause of these deaths. This summary or outline of Keenrao's backstory in 3 lines gives the excuse for Keenrao to become a player character, gives plentiful connection to the game world, and is easy to remember, helping everyone at the table invest in and understand the character and her journey. So, do you have a method you use to write your character backstories? If so, what does it emphasize? And how do you think the 3-line backstory could be improved? Thank you all for visiting the realm. I have been your host, the Goat King, and as always, travel with loyal companions.